My name is Darshana, and this is Ethically Yours, a podcast to simplify sustainability. Joining me today is the entire team of Fashion Revolution India, and we are going to answer all the questions you have about the campaign. So stick around. Well, it's Fashion Revolution Week, and there couldn't have been a better time to have the entire team of Fashion Revolution India on Ethically Yours. Thank you so much for your time. I know each one of you is very busy prepping for all the events to come in this week. And I would like to congratulate each one of you on how amazingly the campaign has done in India over the years. So, to begin with, I would like to ask Sukhi to help our listeners understand Fashion Revolution a little better by telling them, what it is, how it started, and why is it important for each one of us to become a fashion revolutionary.
Thank you, Darshana. That was a heartening opening. It's been a pleasure working with you over the past few years. And lovely to see you grow on your journey. And essentially, to the listeners out there that aren't familiar with Fashion Revolution, it's an absolute honour to share what the campaign's about. Essentially, we're Fashion Revolution's a not-for-profit global movement with teams in about 100 countries around the world. We campaign for a systematic reform of the fashion industry and really want to focus on the need for greater transparency in the fashion supply chain. We were born as a result of a very tragic disaster that occurred in Dhaka in Bangladesh in 2013, where over 1,000 people died in one day, in one moment, when a factory collapsed on them. Their conditions were unsafe on the build-up to this disaster. Their voices were not heard. And as a result, very tragically, many died and many injured. So two women came together, and these are the founders of Fashion Revolution, and Carrie Summers and Ursula de Castro founded this campaign on a mission to call for a safer, fairer and more transparent fashion industry. Since then, many chapters have opened around the world. I was asked to develop the Fashion Revolution India campaign. So great to have the team on the call too. And essentially, as a campaign, we are a collective. We work as collaborators. We are a people-led movement. So we fast become, in 7 years, the world's fastest growing sustainability campaign in the world of fashion, which I think none of us expected, but it just goes to show that people really do care, and there is an urgent need to rebuild a more sustainable fashion system. As a campaign, we're truly multifaceted. Our dialogues essentially call for greater governance. We want a more responsible brand, retailer, and manufacturer, and ultimately, we, the people, anybody that wears clothes, we want them to be a more conscious consumer. Our campaign really kick-started with a massive global response to a couple of questions that we asked people to ask. And one of them was #Who made my clothes? This worked really well in alliance with the campaign #Show Your Label with Fair Trade globally and for us in India. So we partner, we collaborate, and we really like to elevate those questions and answers that we want from people that are working in the fashion industry. We don't want any more tragedies. We don't want these disasters. And we really want to not just be a voice to the people that are making our clothes, but we want to also call out to governments and organizations that are involved in a supply chain that has had a really kind of dark veil over the way that they work. So transparency is key here. I'd love to invite Alia to step in, seeing as when I set up Fashion Revolution India, she was the first person I called to come on board and join us. So perhaps she could spotlight some of our work.
Sure. Thanks, Suki. Happy to jump in. I remember when you called me and asked me, do you want to be a part of this? It was so exciting because I'd actually heard of Fashion Revolution, and one of the NGOs that I'd been working with, we had Avni Kumar based out of Uttarakhand. We had taken part in it in the previous year, so it was kind of already there, and I think that it was great. It was great to hear how we were going to have such a formal presence. And one of the first things that impressed me was how quickly the mainstream fashion industry also accepted us. Because what I remember most is, working with Sustainable Fashion Day at Lakme Fashion Week. That really became kind of like a home for us to plan around, along with our Fashion Revolution Week campaigns. We really had some structure and support from them right from the beginning. And I think it led to many interesting projects and collaborations, branched out into, the British Council collaboration, Crafting Futures. We did the Tencel upcycling. I think that for me was one of the big steps for us in getting a foothold into the fashion industry and meeting like-minded designers, like-minded journalists, like-minded influencers, and putting everything together in the beginning.
I think what is really commendable about Fashion Revolution, and that also got me hooked up in the first place, is the simplicity of the communication. It's very straightforward and very relatable to anybody, whether they are from this industry or not. And what is the most exciting is this hashtag Who Made My Clothes. Very straightforward, to the point. And there are a lot of people who have actually asked me, even when we used to do offline events, or even today, that I've reached out to so many people saying, go into your closets, look at your label, share a picture, tag the brand. So I want to ask you, Sukhi, what happens after we put up these pictures saying who made my clothes, we tag the brands? What happens after that? I think a lot of consumers, a lot of revolutionaries want to know the process after they have done their bit.
Yes, so we have an impact report that anybody can download from our website under the resources section. It's easily available, so you can see our vast impact. So never think that your question is not being heard, because somebody somewhere is counting and listening and watching. So we ask people to show their label and ask the question, who made my clothes? And tag the brand in that they're wearing. That's a very simple call to action. Post your picture on social media, send a postcard, send an email, write to them, whichever you desire, but communicate that you're asking that question, who made my clothes? And actually, year on year, we are seeing an increased number of brands answering that question. So you might get a response. Whether it's a high street brand, a designer brand, a sustainable brand, whoever it might be, at some point you may just get a response. You might not, but keep asking those questions, because we come from that. I mean, imagine a squeaky door. Hopefully one day it gets the oil that it needs, right? So your efforts are not wasted. And
I do think that every year a lot of brands do I made your clothes as well as a response. I think that's where it sort of also started out for a lot of smaller brands who wanted to highlight the way that they actually do treat, their workers and their artisans well. So I do think that is also, it's already there. Like if you look at it from the other side, people who are behind the scenes are using it as an opportunity to put a little bit of the spotlight on themselves during Fashion Revolution Week.
Absolutely. And in terms of numbers, just last year alone, in April, just the month of April alone, 55,500 thereabouts, people asked the question, hashtag who made my clothes? And in response, in April alone, over 12,000, almost 13,000 brands, almost 13,000 post responses, hashtag I made your clothes. So just in terms of data, it's quite significant.
That's amazing to see, really, indeed. I want to involve Divina in this next part of the conversation. So, just to sort of dumb it down, the reason why we are doing this campaign about who made my clothes, and transparency, when we talk about transparency, there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in factories, the condition of factory workers and everything, around it, which a lot of people have no idea about, no access to. And that is where fair trade, I think, fits beautifully, as a supporting organization for fashion revolution, not just in India but globally. So, Divina, can you just share insights or share your experiences from your campaign from Show Your Label to Who Made My Clothes, and how does fashion revolution and fair trade really merge together for this cause?
So I think the world needs a consumer movement that demands for fashion brands and food brands to be fairer to the people who make and grow our food and clothes. And I think at the heart of this, what Fashion Revolution started was the power of the hashtag was the first time consumers globally reached out to their favorite brands to ask them to show the transparency in their supply chains, because I think that's the first step. The first step to sustainability has to be transparency and knowing that the people behind our everyday food and fashion choices were treated fairly. I think with Show Your Label, the question of who made my clothes also went down to who grew my clothes, which is a very important aspect of the campaign in India, given that 70% of the farmers' suicides in the country are in the cotton growing regions. And the Indian farmers' suicides is the largest wave of suicides in human history. So there was a need to get brands to be more transparent and accountable to the processes and the people. And I think that over years we're seeing that it has sparked a consumer movement of people understanding the social and environmental cost of their everyday food and fashion decisions and wanting for them to be fairer. So when you take the awareness to communities, people do not want to be exploitative. It was just that the Rana Plaza was a big wake-up call for the global fashion industry to take note of the human and environmental cost. That was something that was not spoken about enough. So I think that since then we've seen a lot of amazing photos of the people who make and grow our clothes, as well as understand what's the difference between a factory that wants to be a part of the fashion revolution versus another one. Whether it's decent lighting or better working conditions or the rights to form associations and unions. I think that's the bit that has really come out of this, because even the workers who were a part of the tragedy at Rana Plaza did not want to go to work that day, but they were forced to go to work with a threat to lose 1 month's pay, and they didn't have a union or to represent them, and their own voices were not strong enough. So I think that's why this whole movement needs to be backed by a consumer movement, and that's happening more and more every year.
Interesting. Materials become a very, very important part of our clothing, and a lot of us don't understand what goes into our clothes. Even Divina touched upon, who grew my clothes. So I do see a new hashtag coming up with Fashion Revolution that says, "What's in my clothes?" I would love for Shruti to maybe come in and talk a little about this, because I would also like you to touch upon the entire cotton policy dialogue that was initiated last year, and you can maybe highlight all the findings, or briefly, if you can, depending on cotton, what is its general perception, and also the materials and the campaign that falls under what's in my clothes.
Hi, Darshana. I joined Fashion Revolution last year, and it's been a wonderful 1 year. And I've learned so much from the fellow revolutionaries here at FR. This year, we had undertaken cotton policy dialogue. This was done to understand more about the supply chain and its impact on sustainability. We took a deeper dive into cotton farming and did a report and a study, and like a big policy dialogue with different stakeholders on how gender equity works in cotton farming and its impact on sustainability. So, this study and the dialogue explored the role of women in cotton farming, the challenges that they face, and the opportunity for them to truly become change agents in sustainability, especially with respect to cotton. Because as you know, cotton is a really thirsty crop. It takes huge amounts of water. It has a incredible amount of impact on sustainability. So if it is grown right, if there are right kind of training given to people on the farms, if there is right kind of support given to them, then we realize that it can make a huge impact in the amount of resources that cotton uses overall.
I really, really want to do an exclusive episode talking only about organic cotton because it's so vast and there is very little understanding about why it's important to promote organic cotton farming and what are the difficulties that our farmers face. And I would love for you, Divina and Sukhi, to also join me later when I actually draft down this episode.
I just wanted to step in response to your question about the evolution of the hashtag Who Made My Clothes campaign. This year, we've introduced the hashtag What's in My Clothes. So if you genuinely do not know how polyester is made or what your viscose mix shirt or whatever it is you're wearing, whatever fabric it is, if you really don't know about the complexities of how it got there and how it became the garment that it has, and also the impact that that garment might have on the environment, ask the brand, what's in my clothes? Let them know that actually you want to know and you care about the fibers or plastic on your skin, if at all. And if you do have a moment of consideration as well about the person or the multiple hands that have got the garment that you are wearing to you. So if you think about it, to get your piece of clothing hanging up in the wardrobe, it's passed a hell of a lot of hands to get there. It's been dyed, it might have been spun, it might have been grown, woven, transported, artisans have worked with it. Somebody could have sat there and embellished your garment. Let your brands know that you care about those people and you care about that supply chain. And beyond that, just very simply, what's in my clothes? At the end of the day, your skin's an organ. It's breathing in whatever you have on it. So if you want to know more, just step up and ask those very, very simple questions. We try and make it easy for you, and we explain why we've created the hashtags that we have. And everything's up on our website, www.fashionrevolution.org, so you can have a little read after the podcast and get to know a bit more.
Suki, would you also like to talk a little about the fanzine? I think it's a brilliant piece of information, creatives, collaborative work that talks about a lot of these things that we have briefly already spoken about. And I think the fanzine is something that everybody should look out for. Can you please maybe just touch upon a little on that?
Yeah, so essentially we have a fanzine that's available online. You can order it, you can download it and contribute to our campaign in the process. It really is a labour of love, and we get a bunch of contributors and people from around the world to help make one of our dreams come into reality. And it's something that we've always wanted to do. And essentially, our campaign is a creative campaign with a really serious message. So we create this fanzine to simplify really complicated messages in a very visual way. And we try not to take anything away from the seriousness of the conversation. We just like to simplify it for those readers that are new to the subject, perhaps. Even if you're not new to the subject, it's just quite nice to have a visual medium associated with the campaign that you might be talking about. So every fanzine has its own identity, and we have a number of them that have been released. One was focused on Fashion Craft Revolution. We had a collector's edition. One of my that loved clothes last, and we do have a hashtag called Loved Clothes Last. On that point, remembering the words of one of our founders, the most sustainable item you have in your wardrobe, the most sustainable garment for you is the one that's already in your wardrobe. And that celebrates the whole idea of re-wearing your clothes, loving your clothes, think twice before you throw them away, perhaps repurpose them. So dive a little bit deeper into our campaign and look up these hashtags. My favourite for sure was Love Clothes Last, but there was also Money, Fashion, Power, explaining the dynamics of the business of fashion. So they're all on our website and they're available to read and buy now. I hope that answers your question a little bit more.
It does. It does. And what is most fascinating is everything that Fashion Revolution sort of talks about, be it repairing, mending, loving your clothes and making them last, repurposing it, swapping it. I just feel that it's truly how Indians have lived for so many years. These are lessons from our grandmothers that we have forgotten because we were just so busy aping the West. So I just feel that it should come very easily to us in India. Having said that, I want to, just go around the table and speak to, regional coordinators and understand what the landscape of sustainability in fashion is across the country. Because yes, we are a vast nation and there is change in the language, in the culture, in the food within kilometers. So Pooja, would you like to take us through everything that's happening around West Bengal, the eastern side, and what is people's understanding of sustainability? How has been your interactions with the people, with the brands, with factories?
Right. Hi, Darshana. Thank you so much for having me here. So I've just completed about 4 years being associated with Fashion Rev, and I think when I did the first event in 2017, there was a presence of Fashion Revolution and the message that we were trying to do, but it wasn't as well known. Because I think it was only limited to a few businesses which were doing small craft work. I mean, that's the scope of what I remember as it was here in Calcutta. How I see that the landscape has evolved here is the younger generation, because I interact a lot with the youngsters, because I have been in the education sphere also and mentoring people across, that the younger generation has become really, really aware of what they are consuming, how they're consuming, in terms of who made my clothes, because Bengal has an amazing manufacturing base when we talk about embroiderers, karigars, tailors. So I think Bengal, the designers, the industry is doing a fantastic job in preserving the craft culture here. And I think that's truly the way forward, especially now with the seeming realities which are going around. I think people will definitely start finding more meaning with the kind of things that they're buying.
Pooja, one thing that I have to highlight is the wellness program that you initiated last Fashion Revolution week. I don't think anybody had seen anything like that. We all talk about personal wellness and we all practice meditation and yoga, but to actually put these artisans, tailors in a room and, give them that experience must have been something. So if you can just, maybe tell us briefly how that experience was and how did you even come up with something like this?
Right. Thank you so much for bringing up that point, because I think it was really a very, very a project which I personally aspire to do well, because I think when the entire conversation of sustainability comes, my first is about emotional well-being of the people that are working for me or around me, because I really feel that if they're mentally and emotionally doing well, if they're in a good space mentally, everything that they're producing, so it's just like a ripple effect. They're producing well, they're making good things. And so when I look at their lives, it's mostly like, okay, they travel say from about like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, then they'll come and they're on the machine for the next 8 hours or 7 hours, and then they're going back and they're coming. So it was just almost like wanting to educate them, give them a first-hand experience of what can be done to simplify their lifestyle. And the first thing that came to me was yoga and wellness or meditation, introducing them to these things, which is something so simple that once they've learned it, they can also do those free neck movements or shoulder movements sitting on the machine. So it has to be practical. Because our factories, etc., are not equipped right now that you can go around and maybe do like a full-fledged pose or something. But the little tidbits that we taught them, and I'm really grateful to Kyogi Wellness, the group that partnered with us for this, because we went around factories. I think the entire week we covered seven different designers, 7 to 8. We covered Deva Neil, that was the biggest one, and we had about 70 to 75, laborers over there who joined us. So that was amazing. It was something which I think was very emotionally satisfying for me as well, and all of the people who had volunteered for the project. And I think one of the carriers who's still with me looks, he's come back and told me that, are you planning to do that again? Because I want to like brush up my skills. So yeah, so I think this is something that we should I should basically definitely try to see how practically we can keep doing this year on year. And it'll be amazing if business houses can incorporate this into their working hours, maybe just even if it is like 2 hours a week, like twice a week should be great.
That's exactly what I was thinking about right now. At managerial levels, the HR sends out these workshops, or there are mailers that goes out to, people sitting on their chairs, stretch, do these exercises. But, these people are generally unseen. So, yeah.
I think just following on from that initiative, one thing that Fashion Revolution India certainly wants to do, and even globally others were inspired by the activity that Pooja initiated in her region, is we want to do more of those wellness for workers initiatives, to just pause for a moment and say, we are aware you're people, not machines. And we want, because due to COVID-19, this Fashion Revolution Week, we were unable to develop that event further physically. However, we are committed to that campaign idea and that initiative, and we would like to, as soon as we can, get more and more organisations involved in different regions and in other parts of the world too. And through the Fashion Revolution Network, this was one that was really talked about and celebrated. So, I really commend what Pooja and her team initiated, and I really look forward to see the development of this going forward.
Big applause to you, Pooja. Really, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's move on and understand what is the landscape like in Delhi. I would love Rini and Shruti to, highlight about their experiences, some key initiatives that they undertook, and what were their learnings, and what is the general idea, understanding of people around the city.
Yeah, sure, Darshana. So I'm gonna start with the onset of Fashion Revolution, or introducing the campaign in the city almost 4 years ago. So I remember when the first activation that we did on ground, and it did not come up to our expectations. I think these two things were had such a big role to play. People don't understand what sustainability is, but here's the thing: people understand climate change, and specifically in Delhi, like for us being the most polluted city in the world, and I know we have shared that unfortunate position with a couple of other cities, and we're still among the top 5. And everybody understands climate change. Everybody understands when it directly impacts their day-to-day living, and when you can actually feel it, right? So for that, a series of grim, things like that have transpired for fast fashion and sustainability to really come forward in the consumer forum. So we've seen definitely a surge in homegrown brands keeping sustainability as an inherent part of their business model, and not just like a CSR activity, or not just like an extension of here's something we also do, but it is the core of how our brands run. And so it's a mix of that. And I think exposure to information has been very, very important for the consumer here. We've spoken very extensively about materials, and we've brought brands who are using innovative materials. And so we've done this through documentary screenings. We've done this through bringing brands together all under one roof with samples of the materials that they use, so that everybody who comes on during, for the event can actually touch and feel and understand what this fabric is. So whether we're talking about a tencel or we're talking about a bamboo fabric or something which is created from regenerated algae, and there are some really innovative work which is happening within startups in India, which we don't get to see. So Fashion Revolution events in general became the stage for these brands which are innovative, which are inclusive and fair, to come forward and put their products. And while we don't endorse brands, we obviously endorse players who support our cause, whether they're brands or practitioners or advocates in any form. It is still changing. It will take big brands to come on board to support these causes till it becomes mainstream. But I think Delhi is very perceptive in and very, very innovative in its approach. So I think we just have to keep running the marathon.
I think Rini has covered everything. I mean, Delhi as a place, it has a really, really vibrant community of people who are committed to mainstreaming fashion sustainability. And we also have like a good community of conscious consumers. Additionally, I would like to add that Delhi is also seeing a lot of good research work in bringing sustainability in brands. For example, there's a huge research happening on packaging. There are our partners who are doing research on how packaging can be made more sustainable in fashion business and otherwise. Then there's a whole dialogue on fair wages and how to build safe workspaces, especially especially in light of what's happening today. That has got a renewed dialogue, and there's a renewed focus on how can we make workspaces safer for people. So I think that's very, very interesting, and we would see a lot of new things evolving out of this region on this dialogue.
I have to say, I think collaborations have played a huge role in where Fashion Revolution is today. We have really seen in the past some amazing collaborations, be it with bigger organizations like an IMG Reliance or CAIF in Telecap, smaller startups and entrepreneurs. And there is one very interesting collaboration that I'm seeing on the list of events for this Fashion Revolution week is the one with Pearl Academy. And I would love for Alia to tell us a little more about this, please.
Hi, yeah, sure. I'd love to tell you more about it. I think that one of the most exciting things I've seen in the last couple of years has been how fashion colleges and like design academies are all extremely aware and interested in Fashion Revolution. This year, Pearl Academy had reached out to us when they learned about our hashtag campaigns, and they wanted to involve their students in the online campaigns. And they asked us to explain the hashtags to the kids before they would get involved and come up with their own posts. They were very generous to offer us access to the entire network of their colleges. So we are going to be getting online with the kids. And the first session, Suki and I are going to be chatting with them about who made my clothes and what is the inception of the hashtag and how they can get involved. The whole idea was the students were interested in learning more about how to get involved with the campaigns. And so they requested us to go and sort of do a little live session with some people who really kind of embody it in their work.
Very exciting. And I have to talk about our student ambassadors. They are a force to be reckoned with. I think their energy, their excitement, and their never say no attitude has helped us at so many incidents, and I'm sure Sukhi is going to vouch for that. These are some brilliant girls. Unfortunately, they are not here today, but shout out to Anushka, Tanya, Meher, and so many of you all who've also helped us in clothes swaps and a lot of other events. I want to come back to Fashion Open Studio, which is a brilliant concept and for the first time coming to India. Suki, please tell us what it is, how did it come about, and what should one expect in a Fashion Open Studio?
I would love to. So, Fashion Open Studio is spearheaded by Tamsin Blanchard from the UK. It was launched in 2017, and essentially it's a week of presentations, talks, workshops, emerging designers, trailblazers, and also major players in the fashion industry. And it's all about celebrating the people and processes behind making our clothes, and again lifting that veil of what really happens in a design studio and generating a really honest conversation, and having a space where the public can come and join in dialogue, or to see a very transparent fashion process and accountability at the forefront of what these designers are doing. So we really align with designers that are selected by a jury year on year. And the ones that we select, they really do have an opportunity to share their innovation and creative solutions. And I'm really proud that we have 3 wonderful designers from India this year. So Iro Zero Waste in Jaipur will be initiating a digital event. Kasha from Pune will also be initiating a digital event every day of the week next week, as well as Bodis, who will be holding a conversation on the weekend towards the end of Fashion Revolution Week. Initially, these were all going to be physical events, but due to the current pandemic and the situation with COVID-19, it's too high risk to have those physical events. And quite frankly, we wouldn't be allowed to do them anyhow. But this is the power of digital. We can still have that dialogue. We can still show these honest work practices and have these designers to give us accessibility to the way they work and how they approach their fashion. So that's Fashion Open Studio. And there's a whole website about it. So if you're more curious to know, fashionopenstudio.com is the place to go and read more, and also to see all the events that are happening around the world this year.
That's amazing. I did not know Fashion Open Studio had a website of its own. So I'm going there next, immediately after this. I have to bring in Divina again to talk a little about what the south of India feels about sustainability. What is the vibe there? How are people responding? I know one of the first clothes swaps in India happened in Bangalore or Chennai, if I'm right. So I think they are a little ahead of the curve, but Davina, please help us understand.
So I think the campaign from 2015 has really grown in Bangalore, but we see the same people coming back every year with innovative ideas on what they'd like to do to support the movement. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about Fashion Revolution, that there's so much that everybody can do in terms of trying to raise awareness or organizing a clothes swap or a dialogue that raises awareness about such an important topic. What we've been seeing for the last couple of years is that we have a dedicated team at Vidyashilp Academy in Bangalore, which are young students who love Fashion Revolution, speak very passionately about it, and have taken the time out to understand how their individual fashion choices impact the planet and the people. So there are 2,500 kids who are going to school in 100% sustainable fair trade uniforms made with fair trade cotton and recycled polyester. And I think that is the best example of where the campaign has gone, because not only do these kids wear this uniform every day to school, they understand how it was made. And one of the most amazing experiences for me was going with these kids to the factory where the uniforms were made last year. So we went to Mercer Apparels in Tirupur last July to see and meet the people who made these uniforms. And when Vidyashilp launched as India's first fair trade school, because of their commitment to these uniforms, we also had the farmers from Gujarat, from the Sumit Organic Growers Group, and they came down to meet the students wearing these uniforms, and they are the farmers who grew the cotton in these clothes. So I think that's been one of the most amazing outcomes of the campaign in terms of seeing the consumer movement build to consumption and a community of students wearing these uniforms and taking the education of this back to their families.
I remember going to one of these schools in Bombay with you, and it was so lovely to see, the corridors of the school that had the UN SDG goals pinned up on the walls in their classrooms. And I remember you telling me that these kids basically go back home, and when they go shopping with their parents, they look out for that fair trade mark, and if not, they literally don't allow parents to shop. You have hit the right spot, Devina, I have to say.
I know, it was such a lovely day, right? We had our whole force of young kids telling us how they'd like to lead the fashion revolution. And I think we need to see more and more of that.
It still gives me goosebumps. It was such an amazing experience. Brilliantly done.
Thank you.
Great. So I want to talk about this, very interesting part of our country, which is the Northeast. There was this amazing project that Fashion Revolution did with British Council that spotlighted Northeast, the handicraft, the handloom, and I think that is one area that is so rich in culture, in textile, in craft, but doesn't have enough representation.
Darshana, in all fairness, you were a huge part of our Telegram from Tripura event. So perhaps you could spotlight your journey and your involvement in Fashion Revolution and some of your highlights.
Yeah, I would love to. So this was Fashion Revolution Week, I think, back in 2016. And there was this flash mob happening in Bandra, where these bunch of kids wore Fashion Revolution t-shirts and at Carter Road. And I was very new to sustainability. I had just about stumbled upon the true cost and, just absorbing all of this information and trying to understand what is happening in this world. And when I saw that flash mob, I went to Instagram, I looked it up, and I thought it was absolutely fascinating. And I started DMing Fashion Revolution India, the main Instagram page. I think I wrote crazy amount of emails to Sukhi as well, saying that I want to be a part of this. My first event also was, in Mumbai. Started off with a movie screening, followed by a panel discussion. And then year on year, we did clothes swaps, we did blogger events to even educate the bloggers and influencers to talk about sustainability and, how they can really move away from their regular content, which is so consumption heavy, to, thinking of innovative ways of styling yourself and looking at fashion differently or developing a different relationship with clothes. Amazing number of collaborations. And I think I'm only grateful to be here today. My journey has been quite amazing, from a startup to Fashion Revolution to this podcast to also my new role with IMG Reliance. I think all of this, all these partnerships, all this love and all this momentum has brought me personally and all of us together at this point where this is on the verge of becoming a mainstream conversation. And I have to thank each one of you for that. With respect to this entire telegram from Tripura campaign, there were such amazing stories that came out of that region. And there were so many women who led these movements.
That project, I think we really enjoyed working on that because it showed the beauty of collaborators coming together. Not only did we have Bethany Williams from London coming to India to go and visit the tribes in Tripura, that Aradrik Dev Verman from Tilla organised, and they both collaborated. They produced a collection that was then shown at Sustainable Fashion Day during Lakme Fashion Week, all supported by the British Council, but essentially some of the interesting dialogues that came out of it, which is exactly what Fashion Revolution's about. We don't go into areas and presume and assume. We talk, we listen, we generate dialogue, and a lot of these villages and tribal communities didn't want actually to place more, to have more orders. They had simple requests like, can we have more water for our villages? And some tribal communities were actually using synthetic cotton because, of course, the cotton to grow in their regions is thirsty. So it's all about discovery for us. And I think that was a very, very interesting bit of insight post-project and during project, which steered and shaped the way we were going forward.
Yes, absolutely. The power of collaboration. Well, last but not the least, how can anybody join? So if I were to do something, and if I want to host something during Fashion Revolution Week, is there a way I can do it?
Absolutely. So if you have an idea or an activity that you want to partake in, do it. If you want to collaborate with us and let us know about it, tag us in, or you can email us. You can email us on india@fashionrevolution.org so that we're informed. You can upload your event. We make it very, very easy for people to upload all their information via our website in the events list. So you can actually upload your own event, even if it is digital.
Amazing. Davina, you wanted to add something?
I think that, there's the need to be aware about what is happening in the fashion industry, and what is happening with COVID-19 right now has really affected fashion, with global orders being cancelled. One of the best ways that Fashion Revolution has adapted to this is by changing the template of the email to brand to go beyond showing who the makers are, but also to ask, where consumers can reach out to their favorite brands and ask them to not cancel orders or be more responsible to the people that they source from. I think that everybody can take some time out to email their favorite brand, as well as participate in the online campaign by tagging their favorite brands and asking them with the hashtags who made my clothes and who grew my clothes. We also want to encourage people to go on and watch movies like Nero's Guest and The True Cost to become more aware about the social environmental footprint of fashion. And if schools want to participate and have e-learning modules open, they can also in their English classes incorporate the writing to brand and be a greater part of the movement and add to the dialogue of Fashion Revolution this year.
Thank you so much, Davina. I have to say, everything is taken care of. All you need to do is go to the fashionrevolution.org. There literally is a toolkit. There is an image of who made my clothes. There are ideas on what you can do. It is served for you on a platter. You just have to go ahead and take action. Thank you so much, Fashion Revolutionaries. And it's not just us, it's everybody who's listening to this. We are all fashion revolutionaries. And we hope for each one of you to take action in whatever little way you can. Any closing thoughts, my lovely lady?
Be curious, ask the questions that you're dying to ask, and do something. So take some action and join the fashion revolution.
Hey, it's great to see you stick around till the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode and will come back for more. Please do share, subscribe, or whatever that you typically do to our podcast, because we are going to need some love and support. See you next time.